Greetings, ASA members. As we close FY 2020, in this podcast I'm going to talk of masks and money. Just this week, cities from Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert, and Phoenix to Yuma and Nogales to Flagstaff, Bisbee, Payson now require masks. And how long will these orders last? If they last a month or 2 months, that will get into the next school year. So the question is, do these municipal orders affect our school districts? Well, 2 lawyers I spoke with today said, with qualifications, yes. Much, of course, depends on how the language of the orders is constructed, but often the words public buildings, public spaces are used, and certainly schools fall within that scope. Now, the Arizona Department of Health document, Requirements for Business, which includes all entities operating in Arizona, issued per Executive Order 2020.40, which covers districts and requires face coverings by employees and customers when social distancing is not possible and when wearing face coverings is feasible. Remember that order, and that affects us as well. So even if a particular municipal declaration does not seem to include school districts, the school district would still need to implement policies consistent with the Arizona Department of Health Services. And of course we have the CDC guidelines. So it would seem that the municipality orders, or the Arizona Department of Health Services, or the Center for Disease Control, one way or the other, masks are in our future. And I've included an evaluation of this by the law firm Gust Rosenfeld with this message if you want to read further. Now let's move on to money, because it does come down to money. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee met yesterday, JLBC, to make a second evaluation and prediction of the upcoming budget shortfall. You remember when they met a couple months ago, they were talking about a potential budget shortfall of $1 billion, yes, with a B, billion. And they estimated in April that the State General Fund would have a $638 million shortfall this year. Well, that shortfall estimate that they made just 60 days ago, they've now reduced it from $638 million to $190 million. I guess they were just $500 million off. That means the estimated shortfall was reduced by 70%. Now, the new June forecast does not anticipate as rapid a recovery in FY 2021 as the April projection. So they've increased their estimate of the FY 21, next year's budget shortfall. They've increased that, that's the bad news, to $518 million. Now, the ultimate level of the fiscal year 21 balance, they said, will be influenced by the future course of COVID-19. Well, duh, which cannot be predicted with any accuracy at this time. They further then said, given that uncertainty, the FY 2021 projected ending balance could vary from, get this, could vary from 0 to 1 billion in shortfall. Well, that's certainly helpful. So in FY 21 we could have a shortfall of 0, very nice, to 1 billion. So go ahead and make a prediction like that. That reminds me of economist Lawrence J. Peter, who said, an economist is an expert who will know tomorrow why the things he predicted yesterday didn't happen today. Thank you very much. If you want to read that complete report with those amazingly accurate predictions, you can see the link in this message. Now let's go on to further talk about money, and this is per pupil spending. Now remember when ESSA was passed a couple years ago, it included a requirement that districts ultimately issue per pupil spending reports, not on a district basis, but they also report them on a school basis. Per pupil spending on a school basis. Now, the school report cards being done every year by ADE, they'll be coming out in the first or second week of July, and they are going to include this per pupil spending. So if you're a district with several schools, the report cards will include data that the per pupil spending for school A is this, for school B it's this. Now you need to think about what that means, because per pupil spending varies between schools. What if school A has many veteran teachers with master's degree and schools B does not have such teachers? School A then is going to have a higher payroll and higher per pupil spending. How will parents react when they see that school A, the district spends $7,560 per pupil, where at school B they spend $6,140 per pupil? Think about that. In fact, there's probably 4 factors that could influence per pupil spending in schools. Does one school have a higher special ed population? Or maybe they have some specialized district programs in special education at one school. Secondly, rural schools with small numbers or schools with a small population, you have less pupils and you might be spending quite a bit of money per pupil then. So they might seem to have higher per pupil expenditures. And again, there's number 3, the teacher experience. Do you have a lot of experienced high college degree teachers who are making better money, higher salaries than teachers in the second or third year of their experience? Maybe they just have a bachelor's degree. And finally, do you have districts that have desegregation money or federal impact aid or small school extra aid or overrides? Or do you have some schools, in some districts, there are some schools in wealthier neighborhoods that receive a high level of parent contributions? That money will count on this calculation. So get ready, if you're a school district with many schools, to message to your parents why one school is having much higher per pupil expenditures than another school. Be ready to explain that. Now, the Arizona School Boards Association did a webinar last week, a very helpful piece of information there. I've included a link in this message where you can hear that webinar. You can go on, by the way, you have 2 weeks to look at this initial data for your school's report cards and check the calculations with ADE, and that's in the school accountability part of ADE. And of course you have to go on to ADE Connect if you have the login credentials and check that data. So there you have it, ASA members, of masks and money. Just a reminder to renew your ASA membership for next year, because we will give you better information and predictions than the Joint Legislative Budget Committee.